Welcome to The Formed Life. I'm Virginia Kujabi, your host, and this is a podcast for followers of Jesus who long to be shaped by his love and be formed more into his likeness. We will explore spiritual rhythms and have honest conversations and stories that root us in the Trinity, renew our hearts, and transform how we live in relationship with God and others. So grab your coffee, tea, or even LaCroix. I know we have some Diet Coke drinkers in this community. No judgment. Lean in and let's dive into the spiritual conversation. Welcome, friends. We have such an exciting episode. I have been looking forward to this for quite some time. My friend and newly published author, Misty Coy Snyder, is our gift and our guest today. Misty, I am often terrible at introducing people that I know because I just want to share all the things that I love about them. And I will do that. But for you, because you're a newly published author and you have so many amazing accolades, I do want to share a more formal introduction for you. So, Misty, for over 20 years, she's been inspiring people through storytelling, whether it's on stage or taking the audience on a journey through her acting or her vocal performances, or now edifying her readers through writing. She relishes in communication, connecting, and community. Misty is an entrepreneur, she is an author, and she is an advocate in the Down syndrome community. She has a website and Instagram platform, Happiness is Down Syndrome. That's also the name of her book that just launched this week. And for World Down Syndrome Day in March of 2025, Misty spoke on the panel at the UN discussing community support for the Down syndrome community. She frequently travels globally, sharing her story of hope, and is currently the creative director at Rod's Hero, where the mission is to uncover superpowers of Down syndrome. Welcome, Misty.
Hello, thank you for having me. It's so good to see you.
I am absolutely thrilled to have you here. Misty, I've only done this one other time, but today's episode is so special that I actually want to dedicate it. And I want to dedicate this episode to our two incredible boys, our sons, James and Jed. So I'm going to dedicate it to my son first. And then, Misty, I want to make a dedication to your son, Jed. James, you are the brightest spot in my life, my greatest joy, and the greatest gift God has ever given me. Well, tied with your daddy. I'm so deeply grateful that I get to be your mama. You are a mighty warrior. You are made in the very image of God. The Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, the Imago Dei, are reflected in you, and you reflect his glories in ways that continually amaze me. James, you are loved, you are chosen, and you belong. You are a world changer, and because of you, I've been given the privilege of a lifetime and the greatest adventure that I could have ever hoped for or even imagined. And Jed, the mayor of everywhere you go, your joy and beautiful smile are already changing the world around you. I'm so incredibly glad that you were born. You too are a mighty warrior made in the image of God, bearing his glory and reflecting something beautiful about him to the world. And Jed, because of you, I got to meet your mommy, and I'm so grateful that I did. So this episode is for you, dedicated to James and Jed, two precious boys who remind us that every human life is immeasurably valuable, deeply loved, and beautifully made in the image of our God. And we are so glad that you are here.
Beautiful.
So that is our dedication, Misty. I just felt as I was preparing for our time, I was like, our boys brought us together. So there's a few people, when I got the Down syndrome diagnosis for my son, there were no resources. There's a dear woman in Colorado, Jill Monarch, who had a daughter that I knew like from years ago when I lived in Orlando. And I reached out to her. Her daughter, I think her daughter had either was a senior in high school or about to graduate. And so she gave me some books that were like, and she does a lot of service in the greater disability community. So she gave me some books to read, and she was very, very helpful to me. Like she was the only resource for me in those early days. But she gave me some like Instagram people to look up, and somehow like when you follow this person, then they recommend this. And it truly was Instagram that recommended your page and then happiness is Down syndrome. I'm like, what is this? Happiness is Down syndrome. So we literally connected through Instagram.
Wow.
Is that wild?
Wow.
I think it's,
Wow.
I have a couple of really great people that are in my life that are through Instagram. So again, our sons kind of brought us together, but
So
you've
cool.
become a dear friend and really, and I don't know if I even mentioned this in your, I think I did, but in your bio that you are an advocate in the Down syndrome community. And you definitely, out of the gate, I was like, wow, she is doing like amazing things. And I wasn't quite I was like, so I felt so far behind you. I think I'm a year behind you in terms of our son's age, but I feel many years behind you in terms of all of the work that you're doing with advocacy. But the internet can be an interesting place, but some really sweet gifts come from it. And me getting to connect with you was one of them. So, Misty, I'd love
Mm.
for you to just take us back a little bit. We're going to talk about your book. That's a huge reason I'm excited to share that with our audience today. But tell me a little bit about your story before you became a mom and before you
Yeah.
received any diagnosis or anything like that.
I will. I want to really quickly, before I forget, I want to say something to what you just said because I hear a lot of moms say something similar to what you just said, which is, I feel behind you, or I feel like I'm not doing as much as you're doing, or I feel like I can't advocate the way that you do. And I want to address that because I think it's so important to know that we are all uniquely designed. And I am designed all or nothing. It is how I was born. And to a fault a lot of
Sure.
times. And I have done a lot of work to know that it doesn't have to be all or nothing, Misty. Like you have
Yes,
to work on that. But when I decided to go all in, I was like, I'm all in. Like there was no, it was like head first, like no holds bar. And that is how I've been since I've decided. And so that is how I was designed. It's one of my strengths and it's one of my faults. And it's kind
sure.
of like it's this way. And I think that that's great some days, and there are days when that really is not so great. And so
Sure.
I just want to encourage any moms who think that they may be quote unquote like behind to know that there isn't like a barometer. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
we all have our gifts. And so I just want to say that because I hear that a lot.
sure.
And I just want to say, hold on to the gift that you've been given. I was I was born an only child, perfectionistic, born into a performance-filled family. So very much came out of the womb singing, performing, um, always on stage, always like in a performance mode. And so I have always uh, uh, kind of been under a microscope, like in under a spotlight. And so um, I learned from a young age, like if you have to do it well or you can't do it at all. And
Mm,
so I love that. It's very similar to what I just said. I love that and I also hate it
yeah.
because I am very critical of myself and others. And so coming into this journey has been a tough one and a humbling one. I grew up on the West Coast and I came to the East Coast to pursue acting, and I grew up in musical theater and then studied classical theater. And I would say the beautiful part of that is that it's very much put me in touch with this deep empath in me and like wanting to know more about sort of the human condition and like what makes us tick and I feel like it's a beautiful thing to study characters and study personalities and all of those things. And I'm so grateful for my background in theater. And I think that it's really been a blessing to me. But uh, when I got the diagnosis in 2020, right on the cusp, right before COVID,
Mm,
like 2 weeks before everything shut down, the very first thing I thought about, and it's this is always the hardest part to admit, the very first thing I thought about was me.
mm,
It was, what about me and my dreams
mm,
and my goals to be on stage, and this was not in the plan, and this is not going to look good. Like, it's so hard to say those things out loud, but that's really what I thought. Like, I'm not one of those moms. I can't do that, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And then what really made me cry in those moments was those thoughts. Like, you are disgusting. Like, how could you think that about your baby? Like, you love this baby. You wanted this baby. You're selfish and terrible. And so in those moments and thinking about my career and my dreams and my goals and how this baby didn't fit that,
Mm,
that was devastating to me. And so, I guess to answer your question, the Misty before the diagnosis was a Misty about my plans and
mm,
my dreams and my hopes, which we all have hopes and dreams, but this didn't fit them, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's a great kind of a segue into the next thing I wanted to ask about. So how did that experience begin to reshape the way that you understood yourself and then eventually your son Jed?
Yeah, I think it reshaped. I realized, well, number one, I think I realized um, sort of my own my own depravity, my own sort of selfishness, my own sort of um, need to appear like I have it all together. Um, my own desire to have like that 2.5 children in the white picket fence, and I want my family to look like this, and I
Mm,
want it to all appear. It's like it's the appearance thing, like what I said about like being on stage and performing and being under a spotlight. I wanted a family, but I wanted it to appear a certain way.
mhm,
Down syndrome did not fit that picture. And so I didn't know how to reconcile that. And so this diagnosis reshaped how I saw myself. Like, wow, Misty, you're really superficial. Like,
mm,
you really are selfish. And there was just so much shame that
mm.
rose out of me through the thoughts that came out through this diagnosis. And so I really sort of had to kind of reckon with, wow, darkness. Wow, like, ooh, I do not like this Misty I'm having to face. Like, I think most of us walk around thinking, I'm a pretty decent person. Like, I think most of us who have a faith in Jesus, like, we know, okay, we're sinful and we need Jesus and right. But like, I
Yeah.
think most of us think, well, I'm not so bad. Like when we go to bed, we're like, like, and no, once I got this diagnosis, I was facing in the mirror. Wow, wow. There was just a lot of darkness that I had to face. I wanted to run away from my body and my baby and my family. Like I just was so scared. And so I think this diagnosis shaped, like, I have to cling to Jesus in a way that I never have. I have to sort of like fall on my knees and sort of ask him to reshape me altogether. Like, who am I? Like this,
Yeah.
like Les Mis is my favorite musical. Like, who
Yeah.
am I? I
Yeah.
have no idea who I am. Like literally no how because so much of who I was shaped by performance and acting Misty and performance Misty. And this does not fit that, you know?
So tell me, was there then a shift because you went from this diagnosis doesn't fit into your, Broadway dreams and your theater, all the things to you launched something called Happiness is Down Syndrome. Tell me about how did you move from there to
Well,
there?
what changed was Jed.
Mm,
Because when I was pregnant, it was a diagnosis. And sure, I could feel him kicking. And I remember it was gradual. I will say this. When I could feel him kicking and when I could feel like, oh, he's in there, I started to feel a tenderness. Like I started to feel like, okay, he's in there. And I would sort of talk to him. Like I'd say, okay, it's you and me. Like, we're gonna get through this. I would
Mm,
start sort of say out loud, we're gonna get through this. And I
yeah.
was like humanizing him, like, okay, he's not a diagnosis, he's my baby. Even though I was still so scared of Down syndrome, I was like, he's my baby. We're gonna get through this. It's you and me. But it wasn't until he was born that I was like, what on God's green earth was I so afraid of? Like this baby. I was just kicked off my feet. Like I just, it was like a huge, just like hurricane, just knocked me off my feet. And I was like, this baby is the most glorious human being I have ever seen. And I know every mother, like, it feels like my baby is like everything, but it just I don't know what I expected to feel, but I was just like, oh my gosh, you're everything. You're so everything to me. And it took my breath away how much I loved him. And I looked in his eyes and I had this moment where I was just like, we know each other. Like we've been through war together. We
Yeah.
we know each other. And it was like we interlocked. And the next day, my husband had a moment like that with him. And I was like, is he
Oh,
looking at you like he looked at me last night? Do you see it? And he's like, yes, I see it. And it was just like, oh my gosh, he's human and he's our baby and we just love him. And that's what changed. It was like, okay, we've got this. And happiness was literally 3 months into his birth. I woke up in the middle of the night and I started thinking of this song in You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, and it's called Happiness. And the lyrics are, it's all the simplest joys of life. Happiness is um, two kinds of ice cream, telling the time, pizza with sausage. Happiness is anyone and anything at all that's loved by you. It's these simple pleasures and joys of life. And I just burst awake and was like, that's Down syndrome. It's like it's just the simplest beauty. And I had all these pictures in my head of moms like rocking their babies with Down syndrome and like in a swing and like in a field with their babies. And I was like, oh, that's Down syndrome. And it was from Jesus. Like I just woke up in the middle of the night. It was like, this is that. And so I wanted to do a video of it and then the Instagram page and then the Facebook page. And like from day one, this was God's. Like this was his. This is his like baby. you know? And so it's
and
just
was the
so
first thing you did with that Instagram page, Happiness is Down syndrome, was that kind of the first thing that you did after you had
I
that
made the
baby?
video. I made the video like I sang it. I recorded it with like five moms in the Down syndrome community. I had my dad, who's a musician, like chart it for me. And then I hired a pianist and then we recorded it. And then I had like 15 moms like record from all over the country, like different scenes with their babies. And I made a YouTube video and I like raised money to do this. And then that video launched Happiness is Down Syndrome, the page. And I started every week telling a new story. And those stories turned into Happiness is Down Syndrome, the page. And that page, when I say exploded, I mean like it turned from
Yeah.
like 500 people to what it is today, which is like over 70K.
Wild. Is that the song where it goes, it starts three, two, one, something like
That's the
that?
song I wrote.
Okay.
Happiness is morning and evening, daytime and
Yes.
nighttime.
Okay. I have heard that one. Okay. I'm going to put a link to both of those because I love the one that you wrote, 321.
That's my
That
song.
video, I think you
That was
crowdfunded
years
that.
later.
Oh,
Yep.
that one is so good. The first one is Happiness is.
Mhm.
Okay, there's so many things. I feel like I'm like, spoiler alert, guys. So you get the diagnosis, and your first thought is like, but what about my dreams? Misty, since I've met you, you have spoken in New York City at the UN globally. I've seen you sing next to literally rock stars at like a Down syndrome fundraising gala. I've seen you speak at at mom events in California. Like for a theater major that was like worried about not getting on the stage, like since Jed and this diagnosis, that's kind of all I've seen you do. Tell me about that.
It's mind blowing. It's mind blowing, mind blowing, mind blowing. And this is the God that we serve. I was literally sitting at the UN on March. It was not on World Down Syndrome Day. It was a two, I believe it was 2 days or maybe 2 days before World Down Syndrome Day, either March 21st. I think it was March 21st is World Down Syndrome Day. So it was either March 20th or March 23rd. I can't remember.
Okay. Okay.
Anyway, I was sitting up there and it struck me. You dreamed of a stage in Manhattan, and you are on a stage in Manhattan, and it just like hit me like a ton of bricks. Like this stage was one I never would have dreamed of, like ever in a
Yeah.
million years, like ever. And yet when I told people about the UN, there was like a light in people's eyes that it wasn't impressive to me. I was like, well, the UN, okay. Like it wasn't, but other people were like, that's amazing. And
Yeah.
it just hit me. God, you are just mind blowing, like mind blowing the way that you bring our dreams to fruition in a way that we would never expect. It's the same with this book. I had dreams. I've always loved to write, but I've thought of maybe plays and these things might happen
Yeah.
later, but like
Yeah.
plays or a memoir or these sorts of things. What does God bring me? A person from Wiley who says, "Do you want to write a guidebook?" I'm like, "What? I don't know about that. That's interesting. Okay. I don't know if I'm qualified for that." And he's like, "Well, no, no, no." It just plops in my lap, and I'm like, "Okay." And that's the God we serve. Like he takes what you think you're gonna do, and he goes, "Oh, that's cute," and like. It's just it's mind blowing.
Yeah, it's so wild. I have from afar just celebrated all of these like just amazing opportunities that you've had to do in advocacy, knowing your theater background, knowing your dreams and your desires, and that God is like, I'm going to give her something like greater than she could ever have asked or imagined. And it is so different, right? Like you did have that, as you wrestled with the diagnosis, kind of like accepting and surrendering that this is going to look different. But man, different is like a whole lot better. So,
Oh,
I mean,
man.
talk about that for a little bit if you don't mind.
Oh my gosh, so much better. So much better. So much better. Just Jed alone. I loved your dedication at the beginning. I love J and J. Like I just kept thinking J and J. Like Jed alone is the greatest gift. My boys, Clay and Braden and Jed, are the most beautiful gift. But like I look at this book and I think this book is because of Jed. Like, and
Mhm.
I keep saying that. Like I keep looking at him and I'm like, Jed, this is your book. Like, this is
Yes.
you, my love. Like, I keep looking
Yes.
at him. I'm like, you did this, honey. Like, yeah, I mean, Jesus did it and I wrote it, right? But this is you, my love. Like, you are such a gift. And like, he is such a gift to me. And I can't, it just sounds so, um, insufficient to keep saying
Yes.
that over and over, but he is just the greatest gift. And just that alone is enough. But all these other things, like the people I've met, meeting people like you, Virginia, like the way that you have blessed me in so many ways in times of hardship and in friendship and generosity. And you are one of many who have come into my life when I have felt nothing but despair and fear.
Mhm.
And the Lord has been like, I'm going to bring people to help you and God has showed up time and time and time and time and time again through virtual strangers,
Yeah.
like literally.
Yeah.
and turn them into friends and sisters who I'm sitting with, and that is such a gift. And then now, like we're saying, like these career opportunities and these speaking opportunities and these, like, it just, my cup overflows, And
Yeah.
sure, there's a lot of hard things. There's a lot of hard things, but at the end of the day, I am so humbled by what I've been given because of Down syndrome. Because of Down syndrome. Like that's the thing that blows my mind.
Yeah. It's like the thing that's like the scariest. And in the moment that you get the diagnosis, it seems like it could potentially be like the worst thing ever. And then it turns out to be truly like one of the best things ever.
Really,
Yeah. I want to
really.
get in the book, and I know you do too. But before we do, I want to talk a little bit about your advocacy. And I know you said it's all or nothing and we shouldn't feel behind, but Misty, you really have done some remarkable things. Will you just talk a little bit about like where does that come from and why do you think there is this need for I mean, I know why, by the way, and I can speak to that, but tell our listeners why it's so important that you do advocacy work. And by advocacy, like you're telling I like to say, like, you're telling the whole story, right? Like when people get a diagnosis, we get like a drop in the bucket. It is very disparaging. It is very clinical. It's not great. And what I like to say that you do is you tell the rest of the story. So there might be some hard parts, there might be some medical challenges, but there's also these wonderful things that no one really talks about in the medical world, and frankly, hardly ever in our society. So I say all that to say, like, tell me why it's important to you. Like, why have you taken up this mantle of leadership, if you will, in advocating in the Down syndrome community?
I think it's really very personal to me.
Yeah.
And I think it has to be personal when you're advocating. It blew my mind when I described first locking eyes with Jed. Um, the the how wrong I'd been about Down
Mm,
syndrome
yeah.
and how I felt like the world had lied to me and I felt
Yeah.
like my heart had lied to me.
Yes. Yeah.
And that made me so angry. Like, how did I get this so wrong? How did the world get this so wrong? How have so many people gotten this so wrong for so long?
Yes.
And
Yes.
and I thought about how I'd got forget about the world. Like I say in the opening chapter or in the introduction of my book, like an audition I am going to, and I actively dodged people with Down syndrome. Like, ugh,
Mm,
like you're a nuisance to me, right? Like, and again, like I consider myself to be a fairly kind person, a fairly open-minded person, and I'm actively dodging people with disabilities. What on earth is wrong with this picture?
yeah.
There's a fear. There's a misconception, there's an ableism, there's a
Yes.
bias that is
Yeah.
so prevalent in our society. We don't even know it. We don't even know it. We're so blinded. We're walking around like this. And it blew my mind when I met Jed that I had been a part of it, that I was a part of the problem.
Yeah.
And that's why I advocate the way that I do because I'm a part of the problem. And so
Mm,
now I'm taking it upon myself to, I mean, do my due diligence, right? Like to say, okay, I got it wrong for so long, and now I want to get it right. Like
mm,
I want to do what I can do to let the world know, to let moms who are expecting know, to let dads who are terrified know, to let families who are scared of their daughters and sons who might be expecting a child, um, uh, grandparents, extended family members, friends, like, oh no, I'm so sorry.
yeah.
To let them know, no, it's okay. Like, it's not just okay. It's wow.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, I want to do that. I think I think what's so hard for me and what was so hard about this book is that I just don't know how to do that enough. Like, I just feel like I'm always coming up short. And so maybe that's what you see in me. Like, I want to do it more all the time. Like,
Yeah.
I'm always like, what else can I do? And I think that's where like God has to enter in and be like, it's okay, Misty. Like, you can't do it all. Like, let me do the rest.
Yeah.
You know? Because I just feel like, how do we get it so wrong? You
Yeah,
know?
I love that. Ah, I love that so much, Misty. Well, I think we're gonna just take one question about the book and we're gonna have to do a part two because I feel like you and I could talk all
We
day.
could.
Like I could interview you for hours and hours. Let's talk about, first of all, the title. You told us where happiness is Down syndrome. It came from for your platform, and you chose that for the title of the book. It's a very provocative title. It's very beautiful. Tell me about what do you mean by that for the book, and what should people understand like when they're picking up this book, Happiness is Down Syndrome?
Well, I do think provocative is the right way. When the publisher asked me what I wanted to entitle it, I thought, well, I've had this platform for a long time. It kind of makes sense to make it this. I mean, I think this makes sense. But I think it's just turning. I think that we live in the upside down in this community. I think that
Yeah.
we're walking around thinking one thing about Down syndrome and we flip that on its ear. And
Yeah.
so I think if we think Down syndrome is horrible and miserable, what's the opposite of that? It's happiness.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about that. Like let's show that light. It's like here's the dark and here's the light. So let's talk about the light. And so I feel like this book is just shining a light on the truth of Down syndrome. It doesn't mean there isn't hard stuff, but we surely talk about the hard stuff. We don't talk about the beauty. And so I think
Mhm.
that's what this book is doing. It's just very it sure ain't like rose-colored glasses. That's not what this book is. It's just saying like, hey, you're going to hear some stories, some really beautiful stories, you know?
So, what could I heard you say earlier when the publishers reached out to you? They were like, could you create a guidebook? So, tell me a little bit about that. Like, what does that mean? It's a guidebook.
It means that it's kind of they presented it to me as kind of a what to expect when you're expecting for Down syndrome. So
Mm.
like if somebody gets a diagnosis and they're like, "What? Where do I start? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, so overwhelming." That you can pick up this book and you can be like, "Okay, here's the index. Oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start." Okay, okay, let's see. Therapies. Okay, I'm gonna go to page 38. Okay, I'm gonna read a little bit about therapies. And so that you don't get so overwhelmed by like all the things. That's
Yes.
what this is supposed to be like. Like it's supposed to be like, I'm your friend. Like, hi, I'm your friend. Don't get overwhelmed. Let me just talk to you about one thing. Okay, now put the book down. Don't get overwhelmed. Let's go have lunch, right? So it's meant to be like you want to go on a little tour of a museum, okay? And now it's a little overwhelming, so let's step away. Okay, now we'll come back. Like, and I'm your guide. I'll just walk with you. And so it that's kind of what it's meant to be.
I love that. And that was not available for me. And it makes me so happy to know that this resource is going to be available to people. I'm not sure if I read where I read it, but it's like it's for every stage, whatever stage you are. If you're getting a pre-birth diagnosis, a post-birth diagnosis, if you have a family member that got a diagnosis, if you are in the thick of it, like it really is for every
Yeah.
stage of where you might be in a Down syndrome journey, which I think is much needed and it's not out there. And so that is, I mean, that's really remarkable, Misty.
And there's also, thank you. And there's also a chapter for friends and family who want to know what to say, what not to say, how to support, because we need that. We need people
Yes.
to know how to support. we need people to know to read from people who have Down syndrome. And we need to not just be preaching to the choir. We need to be talking to people outside of our community too. So this really is a book for everybody. It's not, please hear me. It's not just for the Down syndrome community. Buy it if you're not in
Oh,
the Down syndrome community
yes.
so that you can read and learn. And then if somebody you know gets a diagnosis, you have it up on your shelf.
I have actually bought several copies for my kind of my inner circle, friends who are not in the Down syndrome community. And my ask is, please read this. Like, this will help me so much if you would read
Yeah.
this book. And so
Yes.
I agree. It's not just for, it is, I mean, as a mom of a son with Down syndrome, it's an amazing resource. I'm just so excited for wherever people are in their journey, but especially for moms who get a pre-birth diagnosis or a post-birth diagnosis. I think like for them, because I didn't have that. And I think it's an amazing resource, to your point, for people outside of the Down syndrome community, just to get educated, like to
Yeah.
get educated on a population that's like a really amazing population of our society. So I absolutely love that. Misty, we're going to talk a whole lot more about your book in this next section. For the listeners on the Form Life podcast, I'm going to have links to both of those songs that we talked about in the show notes. I'm going to have Misty's, how you can connect with her on Instagram. I'm also going to have a link. You can get it. Tell us everywhere you can get it. I know you can get it at Amazon. Is it Barnes and Noble? Tell people where they can get the book.
Yeah, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target. The easiest thing for you to do is to go to mistycoysnyder.com and it will have a link for you to buy the book. You can also go to rods.org and they are selling, if you buy a book off of rods.org, 100% of the profits will go to Rods, and I'm supporting the mission there. It's an incredible mission to uncover the superpowers of individuals with Down syndrome, and they're making documentary shorts, and I am 100% behind that mission too. So I would love for you to buy there as well.
I love that. Well, friends, come back next week. We're going to have part two with Misty Coy Snyder. We're going to dive deep into her book, Happiness is Down Syndrome. You can get it today, all the places that she said. I'll also put Misty's website link in the show notes as well, so you can click there and order it, as well as the Amazon link. Get it today. Get it for a friend. Get it for people outside of the Down syndrome community, because again, I just think this is a really amazing, amazing resources. For our listeners, I'm going to take us out in prayer. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, thank you. Thank you for Misty being on the podcast today and this amazing conversation and this amazing resource about people that you love, people that are image bearers of you, who reflect your glory, who have dignity and value and worth, and make our world a better place. Thank you for the book, Happiness is Down Syndrome. We pray that you will get it in the hands of so many people this week, everyone who needs it. And I pray blessing over our listeners, and that through this conversation, through this book, they will have even a greater appreciation and awareness of you and how you reflect your glory through people with disabilities. And we pray all these things in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. Thank you, Misty. We'll be back for part two. Until next time, I'm Virginia Kujabi, and this is The Formed Life.